We never know where life will lead us or what may hinder us along the way. But while every day can feel like one big question mark, it doesn't have to. With the right insights, strategies, and solutions from Western and Southern Financial Group, together we can look ahead to leave the unknown behind.
Back in studio with my dog, Mike Renner here, live on YouTube, also where you find your podcast right now. While you're listening, go ahead, stop the podcast, rate, review, and subscribe. We need those subscribes. We need those ratings. We need those 5-star ratings. Might as well light us up for that. Mike, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Got some very good news on the drive in this morning.
Oh, my goodness.
About the banks.
Dude,
where I live.
Let's set the table for these people here. In Cincinnati, the bar scene is okay. It's pretty good. It's okay.
That's a
down by the Ohio River. Down by the Ohio River, there is this strip called the Banks, where there's a strip of bars, and
it's between Paul Brown Stadium, where the Bengals play, and Great American, where the Reds play. It's like one road
between two ferns, raise you between two stadiums.
Yeah,
just say it's on the Banks.
It's on the Banks.
That's why it's called. It's on the Banks of the Ohio River. That's why it's called the Banks.
Quinn, Cincinnati faithful, born and raised, knows very well the Banks is where it's at.
That's where I live. I live there.
And we just got news that by opening day next year, they are going to turn the Banks into an open container park for adults.
Yeah.
Right? It's going to be insane. They're going to let open container. They're going to not let cars drive through it. Everyone's going to be outside. It's going to be insane, dude. It's going to be absolutely insane. If the vaccine comes through and we're actually able to hang out with other people, it's going to be, I don't know if I'll leave. I might be spending the night at your house every night. I don't know. And it's going to be me next year. I turn 27 in May of next year. And I'm going to be like that guy, that Eagles fan before the game where he's like, I'm in the best shape of my life. Quinn, I need you to play the clip for everybody.
Running out of guys out here. We're on reserves. Practice squad guys. I'm ready to roll if they need me. I'm 26 years old.
All ready to roll.
I played 2 years varsity. I'm in the best shape of my life. Let's go,
Yep, right there. That's going to be me on the Banks next year. Cannot wait for that. Oh, man. It's going to be...
I think my rent's going up, but I'll gladly pay more.
Another thing I wanted to bring up was that there are people right now, before we get into the NFL stuff here, there are people right now overreacting to Queen's Gambit. I think Netflix made a report that 70 million households have watched it, the most by any Netflix series ever. And it was good. Let's call it what it is. It was good.
I liked it.
Yeah. The main
I
actress
didn't think I would after seeing the trailer. I was like, this kind of looks not interesting at all, but it was.
It was very interesting. The main actress is very good. She's very attractive as well. Very attractive.
Let's
just call it what it is. Let's call it what it is. Very attractive. But people calling it like the best show ever. You saw a tweet that said the ending was the best.
Yes. I can't remember who tweeted it. Someone said that was the best. Asked the question, was that the best final episode ever? And I was like, so I went with high hopes. And the ending was easily the worst part about it.
Yeah,
not
the ending
to spoil
was
it,
terrible. She goes through this entire.
That's.
I'm not going to spoil it, but it's
some of us haven't seen it yet.
It's just awful. It's just awful. The ending is just way too. I'll say it like this: the ending is just a little happy-go-lucky for me. All right, let's jump into something else we can get upset about. The college football playoff rankings. Everyone and their mother gets so upset at these things, and rightfully so. Right now, what are your biggest gripes? And tell me why it's Florida and Iowa State and where they're currently ranked.
So Florida ranked sixth last week at 8-1, giving them kind of this outside shot of making the playoffs. They lose to an unranked LSU team who was not good this year. By any stretch of the imagination, not good. They drop one spot in the playoffs. Only Iowa State jumped them. That is, what are we doing here? If a two-loss,
an Iowa State
and
team.
The Iowa State thing is the other just absurd. Iowa State lost to Louisiana. They lost to a Group of 5 school. They are ranked 6th in the college football playoff right now. Cincinnati hasn't lost to a single Group of 5 school. Has played a bunch of them. Has played all the best ones also. Has only had one close game all season. Drops in these rankings after not playing a game. Georgia jumps them after beating a 5-4 Missouri team now. What do we like? Why are you even ranking them at this point if you're just not going to give them any credence for how they've played? Like, and to say, even if you're going like saying based solely off talent. Cincinnati has draft talent. Like, this isn't
absolutely.
This isn't just like some random. This isn't Hawaii that one year when they went 13-0 with Tommy Chang at quarterback or whoever it was back. No, it wasn't. It was Colt Brennan. Colt Brennan at quarterback.
Tommy Chang.
He was the former quarterback. Why? This isn't like that. Like, they have probably 6 guys on that team that will get drafted, and their quarterback might be like a day 2 pick whenever he does declare. This is a legitimately talented team by any sort of measure in college football. They're just getting boned right now. And I went into the season like lampooning. Our friends are all like UC fans, obviously here in Cincinnati, went to UC, like roasting them. But they deserve to be, if one of these teams slips here, if Ohio State loses like this weekend, if Clemson loses again, Cincinnati deserves to be there. They are legitimately one of the best teams in the country. Maybe on a neutral field they lose to Florida, maybe they lose to Texas A&M, whatever. But they haven't played, like, Cincinnati has showed up every single week, and they're, like I said, an NFL talented team. I think they're just getting boned right now.
I think the best way it was put, and I'm going to read the rankings before I say this. It's Alabama, Notre Dame, Clemson, Ohio State. Then outside the playoff right now, Texas A&M at 5. Iowa State, that is 8-2, that lost to Louisiana earlier in the season at 6. Then you have a 2-loss Florida team, a 2-loss Georgia team, and then you have Cincinnati undefeated at 8-0 there at the 9 spot. And I think Nicole Auerbach, I think that's how you pronounce her last name, the athletic writer, said it best when she asked the committee, what's the point of playing the games if this is how you're going to rank these teams? Like, you are building this so much off priors, you're building this so much off confirmation bias, that what's the point of playing the football games if it's going to be such a subjective system to put them in? I saw someone recently, talking about this whole Ohio State's 5-0, USC's 5-0, and the difference is so vast. And that is largely confirmation bias. Ohio State only has 1 win against a top 25 team this year, and USC has none yet.
Well, just watch Ohio State games compared to watching USC.
No, I totally understand that.
I'm saying, like, even like the closeness of them, like, that should matter.
Yeah, it's
if
true.
You're eking out a win against Arizona State.
But 4 versus 13,
team, yeah.
I mean, it still feels a little bit low. Regardless, the college football playoff rankings are so subjective that it's easy to get frustrated.
I will say I do have a problem with the theoretical talent level being taken into account, and like you said, the on-field not mattering nearly as much. Like, it just teams like Alabama or, like I said, Ohio State or Clemson, who in the beginning of the year are thought to be great, can misstep 2 or 3 times and still be included in this because their theoretical talent level is higher than everyone else.
And at that point, why even include the group of 5 in the conversation?
Just start the playoffs week 1 then, if that's like how you're going to do it.
And I don't think people know this, but you are against expanding the playoff. We've had this conversation before. You do not want an expansion of the college football playoff.
No, because you're getting teams, like, you should deserve to be there. I don't think you're ever going to have more than 4 teams that played throughout a full season and deserve to be there. If you lose 2 games in a season, you don't deserve to be there. Mm-hmm. If you lose like a game in an ugly fashion, you don't deserve to make the playoffs. You can't have a claim then to be like Texas A&M, 1 loss, going to finish with 1 loss. You got blown out by Alabama. You don't have a case to make college football playoff. Sorry.
My counter to that is,
like, you got blown out by a team. I'm not saying you don't have a case for college football playoff. You don't have a case to be the best team in the country. And I think it's trying to include every team that has a case to be the best team in the country at the end of the regular season.
My counter to that, as much as I want it to be all about who the best teams are, they need to be in the playoff, I'm looking at it from a content perspective. The reason March Madness is so popular is the Cinderella story. It's the underdogs. It's people rooting for these small schools beating big schools. And I'm not saying expand the playoff to 64 teams like the NBA can, or not the NBA, the NCAA can for basketball, but moving it to 8 and allowing some of these Cinderellas in and let them get beat by 30, let them get beat by 25, like the round of the 1 seed versus 16 seed often is in March Madness, but just give us a taste, because people want to root for an underdog. People want to see monster upsets. Those are the best games every year. These big, upsets late in games. Like, that's what people want from a content perspective. And you can hear the group of 5 stop complaining. We can stop crying about the college football playoff rankings every single year, and we can just let the 8 best teams in, or the 6 best teams, whatever we can do. So just get some more Cinderellas in.
I don't think 8 makes sense. If you are going to expand it 6, I would like where you get you get a bye from 1 and 2.
The first 2 seeds get a bye.
Would get a bye. I would be on board with that. That would be the most I would ever take it, though, because then that would favor being, going lights out, like Notre Dame and Alabama have been easily the 2 best teams in the country this year. That would favor them if you did expand it to 6 where they get the bye. And you'd be able to include the Cincinnatis of the world. Mm-hmm. At that point more easily.
All right, let's go ahead and jump into our next segment here. Let's look at teams in the quarterback market. You tiered these into drastic, Still could, probably should.
Yes.
And then thinking about the future, teams with older quarterbacks is obviously what that tier is. If you want to start with the drastic tier, list the teams, and I can kind of react to these.
Yes. Okay. I tried to keep this fairly tight to where this isn't arguable, but there is one that might be that fans of this respective franchise may have a visceral reaction to, as they've been known to in the past. Got the Jets. Pretty obvious. Jaguars. Sorry about Gardner Minshew. Austin, it didn't work out with you and him.
It didn't.
Even though you still got the honorary mustache with him. Broncos. That's the one where it's like they still got a little soft spot for Drew Lock. But I would classify it as a drastic need. Bears, Patriots, and the football team at this point. That's the tier I would say you got to do something. Mm-hmm. You can't go into next season with what you got right now.
That's interesting. And my reactions immediately are Jets and Jaguars are obvious, and they're going to be in positions to get a really, really good quarterback, one of the two best quarterbacks in this class. The Broncos, you better figure it out. Do not hang your hat on Drew Lock because he's having a couple good games late. He's been one of the most inaccurate quarterbacks in the NFL this year. He's one of the lowest graded passers from a clean pocket, lowest graded passers when pressured. Do not overthink this. If you have an opportunity to make an upgrade at the position, whether that's through free agency or in the draft.
Well, it's like it's not even like have the opportunity for an upgrade. It's like go seek out the opportunity for an upgrade. It's not just, a quarterback fell into our lap. It's go do something about it.
You have to. You cannot continue to live in this purgatory because even if Drew Lock continues to have this middling success where he's pulling out wins late in the season and keeping you outside of drafting in the top 8, that's a problem. That's not where you want to be. Yeah. You do not want to be drafting, 9 to 15 every year because Drew Lock's kind of okay sometimes. That's a problem. That's a bad quarterback. You need to make an upgrade at the position.
His ceiling, and I hate talking about theoretical ceilings, but just from a stylistic standpoint and from his level of action, yes, Josh Allen changed his accurate, got far more accurate, but Josh Allen's also a much better athlete than Drew Lock just in terms of physically what he brings to the table. I feel like Drew Lock's kind of theoretical ceiling's Matt Stafford. That's not.
The Lions have been in a terrible position.
And Matt Stafford is your quarterback purgatory. We'll get to that later. The Lions are in a different tier here, but that's really. If that's what you're hoping for, you better go get someone else.
I agree. And I also have a gripe because I think this brings up the conversation. I hate how much fan bases want to not give up on their quarterbacks after they're drafted. I hate how much it's such a conversation.
I think it's because of the word you just used there, give up. Mm-hmm. It's not giving up. That's what you have to realize, that drafting another quarterback, doing something is not giving up. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on the name right now, but people realize that when the Cowboys drafted Troy Aikman in the supplemental draft that year, they also drafted a quarterback in the first round. It's because they realize you have to realize that quarterback is that important that you can't just leave it up to chance. Gosh, I'm blanking on the quarterback's name now off the top of my head, but that same year in the supplemental draft, they drafted a quarterback with a first round pick.
The problem I have with it is it's this it's on the edge here. You're on the left side. You are 100%, regardless of what he does, every single week, pouring support for this guy. The Raiders fan base is a very good example of just pouring support into Derek Carr, or even the Bears a few years ago, pouring support into Mitchell Trubisky. But then it gets to this point where it's a couple bad games while everyone's been saying he's been playing poorly, that they turn, and then immediately they want him and his family in a dumpster. You have to be unbiased as a fan. And I know it's kind of the opposite of what the word is, fanatic, an absolute fanatic of my team, win, lose, or tie, Raiders till I die. That's how people are. But when you're looking at the quarterback position, if you look at it with any level of bias, you're going to hang your hat or tie yourself to coattails that you don't want to be on. Mm-hmm. I just mix 7 phrases together, but I just think the quarterback position is one where, as a fan, it's appropriate to look at the data. I'm not saying it doesn't always have to be PFF grades. Have your gripes with PFF grades if you want, but there's enough data out there to tell you which quarterbacks are playing well and which aren't. And it's a lot of data that's very stable year over year, which, mind you, PFF passing grades are one of the most stable metrics for quarterback play in the NFL right now, year over year. So looking at quarterback grades, specifically ones from a clean pocket, you can get an idea of whether or not this quarterback is making the right steps. And I know people can improve. Josh Allen has improved significantly, but you need to, with Drew Lock right now, you need to start to have the conversation that if you're in a position to make an upgrade, go seek it out. The only other two teams I'll mention in that, and we can move to the next tier, are The Bears, Patriots, and football team are in a drastic situation to make an upgrade, but in a bad position to do it. They don't have the Bears don't have draft capital to make it happen. Football teams playing their way into the drafting in the 20s, and the Patriots are in a similar spot as well. All of these guys are going to be kind of crossing their fingers for Mac Jones, maybe Trey Lance to fall, maybe obviously Kyle Trask of Florida, and then even to day 2, Desmond Ridder of Cincinnati, Jamie Newman, Derek King's probably not playing quarterback at the next level, but like it's a tough spot to be in that drastic tier and drafting outside the top 15.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if one of these teams makes a real play a la the Eagles and the Rams, when that was at 16. Where they both just moved all the way up in the draft. They were drafting outside of the top 10. Both moved way up. Both just sold the farm to move up to 1 and 2 overall. It'd be interesting to see if one of these teams does that. The one to me that I'm looking at is the Bears, because Turbo, whatever, great game this past week. If they sell themselves on them with a few great games at the end of the year, that would blow my mind and also crack me up as a Packers fan. I think every Packers fan's hoping that happens, actually. But Ryan Pace, I feel like he's in a situation to where like what Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia were in last year with the Lions, where it's like they got to win now or else he's out if they retain him for this next draft. It's kind of a scary position to be in for where they're at. And it could end up with him giving up that, whatever, they're at pick 15 right now in terms of draft standing, giving up a few first rounders to go up, shoot the moon to get one guy. I would be scared. If you're a Bears fan, that would be a scary position to be, because he's been willing to give up picks. They've not had a lot of high draft picks because of his willingness to give them up. The Khalil Mack trade, obviously. I'd just be a little wary if he was retained this offseason, just what the plan is. I'm interested to see what it will be.
And for the football team, I was on Washington, D.C. radio recently, and they asked me about, Alex Smith's winning football games. And, Dwayne Haskins came as a backup, and he's a game manager. He's helping us. We have a good defense. Can we build a team around Alex Smith? And I said, let's talk about it. In the NFC playoff race, is there a single team that the Washington football team wouldn't be dogs to, according to Vegas? No. And why? Because the offense cannot raise the ceiling to beat other really good offenses in the postseason with Alex Smith, a quarterback. He's a game manager, always has been, and the ceiling of that offense is capped. And unless you're going to build around this defense and add offensively, re-sign Brandon Scherf, keep Terry McLaurin, add another receiver, maybe Will Fuller in free agency, and try and build up the supporting cast around a quarterback that only plays to the level of it, that's just a hard way to win football games in the NFL. It's not easy. You need to have a quarterback that elevates your supporting cast, that's a perennial top 5, top 6 player in the NFL to make a legitimate dynasty run. But if you want to try and hobble together wins and stress a wild card playoff push every single season, keep Alex Smith. Continue to dump money at other positions. But I don't think that's the way. You need to find the guy at quarterback. Not a guy, the guy.
Yeah, and his emergence is almost bad for them long term.
Yes.
Because one could talk themselves into him, and he has a pretty big cap hit next year, $22 million. Looked like almost a lock to be a cap casualty. Now, if they retain him, you go into that, their defense is good enough, they're probably going to end up around the 8-8 range. It's just not where you want to be. You'd rather just cut him, get that cap space, and then address the quarterback position elsewhere. Obviously, it's not going to be Dwayne Haskins, though.
All right, let's move to the still could, probably should tier here. Read off the teams.
All right, I have the Carolina Panthers, Philadelphia Eagles, San Francisco 49ers, and then I put question marks next to these last two, because this one's more of the still could, not necessarily should. You got the New York Giants and Las Vegas Raiders.
That is interesting. I know. Let's get to the Giants and Raiders at the end, because the question marks are putting fan bases on tilt. Again, it's these fans. They're like, you're going to hate on Derek Carr. He's having a career year. What are you guys doing? He looks like 2016 version. Calm down. Yeah. Let's chill. Daniel Jones is having the best season of his young career. Looked a lot better this year than he has in previous years.
I would hope it wasn't.
Yeah. Obviously not as bad as it was last year. But let's talk about the teams that are in that, without the question marks. The Carolina Panthers are in a tough spot. They gave Teddy Bridgewater this money, and they're not going to be necessarily in a position to draft one highly unless they lose a couple more football games. They could be in that position to add the third best quarterback in this class, whether they think that's Zach Wilson or Trey Lance. Mm-hmm. The Eagles, they're also going to be in that tier where if they want to make an upgrade over Carson Wentz and Jalen Hurts, but Carson Wentz is such a big cap hit. Can you afford to do that? Can you afford to have Carson Wentz on the bench with a rookie quarterback?
That's the thing. They're kind of in a situation where they've paid a lot of guys. They are in in that win now window where like they're not going to sign free agents. They have a lot of money committed to the next couple of years to that roster, and it's older. It's on the older side. So you can't just cut bait really necessarily and just kind of scrap and say start over. You're not in the position to do that unless you start cutting a bunch of guys, trading a bunch of guys. So I think they're kind of in the no man's land where they just got to roll with this and hope that something turns around.
They're in a tier by themselves. They still could, probably should, but likely can't make an upgrade at the quarterback position with just how big Carson Wentz's cap figure is. And as for the San Francisco 49ers, are they not in a similar spot? What's the situation with Jimmy G's contract?
Jimmy G, they can get out of. That's the biggest part about that. They could save themselves like $20 million in cap space by cutting him next year or trading him.
I think that makes a ton of sense.
That one, I think they just gotta. Like,
what do you think Jimmy G gets on the open market in a trade? Not a first rounder.
I don't know if. I mean, maybe from the Bears. That would be. I don't know who would do it though. Like he's just the injuries have piled up at this point, the inconsistency, and I think everyone kind of realizes, hey, quarterbacks play well under Kyle Shanahan. Mm-hmm. They don't always play well under other office coordinators.
Right then and there. That's an exercise I would do as a front office member, as a GM or whatever it may be, and say, what do you think we get for our starting quarterback in the open market? And if I get any hesitation like that from my guys who are like, hey, I don't know, maybe a second rounder, and it's like, okay, we got to go. He's gone. Mm-hmm. Like, if we can't get a first rounder for my quarterback, we don't have the guy. I'm sorry. Good, and if we can get a $20 million cap hit off the books, then we move on from him and try and make a play for Zach Wilson or Trey Lance because they're in that position as well. Mm-hmm. They lose a couple more football games here, which they probably should. They can make an upgrade at the quarterback position. Give Kyle Shanahan an actual good quarterback. Sam Monson was saying this on the NFL podcast. Imagine Kyle Shanahan with an actually good quarterback.
I mean, it looked like the Packers offense this year because that's basically what they're running. And not identical, but they're running a lot of similar stuff.
All right, let's jump to these question marks here.
I also do want to say Panthers, they're the one team on this list that kind of has to pull the trigger, in my opinion. Yes, you have Teddy Bridgewater, but that's Alex Smith a decade younger, and for what he brings to the table. Great backup, can win you some football games, will not take you to where you want to go. I think he's the quintessential quarterback in that mold. They have the weapons to be an explosive passing offense. He is holding them back to a degree, I'll say. I think he is.
And with Teddy Bridgewater's contract, I'm pulling it up right now, is there an opportunity for them to get out of that, or is he kind of locked in to be at least a backup next year, depending if they try and swing the bat on a rookie?
No, they set it up as such to where it's not. I think they can get out of it here.
Gotcha. All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump to the two question mark teams. Let's start with the Las Vegas Raiders. Derek Carr can be cut out of his contract after the season for just $2.5 million in dead cap. And that would save them, I think, close to $20 million. And then obviously he won't be there for the 2022 part of his contract. That's if they want to do that. On a trade market, I think Derek Carr could actually have some value as well. If you wanted to trade him, because I think you know what you're getting from Derek Carr. I think you understand he's accurate. You understand that he can learn the offense. He's confident. He's a leader, all that type of stuff. But is he that guy that can win a Super Bowl with this Raiders team? Because the supporting cast right now has to be good for Derek Carr to win a Super Bowl, period. And the supporting cast in Las Vegas will not be good for 2 or 3 years. There's not a single player on defense worth building around right now. Maybe one or two.
I was going to say, I don't know, offensively, they have a lot. Like, that's one of the top 5 offensive line in the NFL. They have a solid set of wide receivers. Like he's in a good situation, I'll say, for him to put up numbers. Mm-hmm. Now, to win games, it's not that great a situation. But
I mean, that's been verified this year.
Defense,
I think their offense has been the best it's ever been with Derek Carr. Mm-hmm. Maybe not his 2016 season, but very close to it. And they've invested in the offensive line. They've added receivers. They have Josh Jacobs, the first-round running back. But let's be realistic as Raiders fans. Let's put our Raiders fans hats on. Do you think this football team in the next 2 to 3 years will be good enough from a talent perspective to win a Super Bowl with Derek Carr? And I think if you take the bias out of it, you'd say no. And if that's the situation, move on from Derek Carr to a team that can probably win or go deep with Derek Carr. Let them take that shot. A team with a good defense, a team that does have a good supporting cast that's missing just a consistent, accurate quarterback at the position. I do think they could get some value there, and the Raiders can be better reassess and say, hey, we need to move on from Derek Carr. This is a rebuild. This defense and this offense is going to miss some pieces as well. Is too many pieces away to continue to work with Derek Carr under center.
I will say it has surprised me. John Gruden, known for just belittling his starting quarterbacks, always loving the backup more than the guy who's there under center throughout his coach career previously with the Raiders and with the Bucs, that he's kind of pigeonholed himself into Derek Carr this long. That like his eye hasn't had that wandering eye. I know they signed Marcus Mariota this offseason, but like hasn't had one draft prospect really catch his eyes. Maybe that's going to be my guy because he has the longest leash, probably one of the longest leashes of any coach in the NFL. Like he is going to be their coach. Mayock's going to be their GM for the foreseeable future. I just am surprised that, or I guess it wouldn't surprise me if this offseason they miss the playoffs again, if it's not working out again. And the offense has been a lot better. Like Derek Carr is a quality starting quarterback in the NFL. Don't get me wrong. He's just not a top 8 starting quarterback in the NFL. So I think this could be an offseason where he could be a trade candidate for sure.
I think it would be smart to do. I think it would be smart to trade Derek Carr because I think you're getting him at the top of the market as well. This is easily the best we've seen Derek Carr play since 2016, and I think there are enough teams in the NFL better than Jimmy G. You're going to get better than what Jimmy G could get.
Like if you're the 49ers last year and you trade Jimmy G after the Super Bowl run, and obviously like they were never going to do that. That's just kind of unrealistic. But what you would have gotten then, probably first rounder, maybe additional picks. Versus what you'd get from now, like you said, maybe a second rounder, if that, that's a sizable difference that you have to be able to objectively evaluate and say, this guy's fine, but we can do better.
Man, imagine if he went to the Bears. I think Derek Carr to the Bears with Matt Nagy could actually work. He makes good decisions with the football. When it's not fourth down, he's not throwing the ball away. He's a bit conservative, but he's accurate. And I think Matt Nagy could probably win with Derek Carr. I don't know. It's an interesting conversation. Let's jump to the Giants.
And the whole sort of people are going to jump on us for being like, why are you giving up on these guys? He's a quality starting quarterback in the NFL. I think the whole conversation relies around the fact that there's never been more talent at quarterback. You have options out there. You could sign Jameis Winston, who just led the league in passing yards. You could sign Teddy Bridgewater. Like quarterbacks hit free agency now that can come in and start and aren't complete trash for you. You can sign Cam Newton, who was he's had struggles there in New England, but he's also won as many games as Derek Carr is this year.
It's a self-awareness thing for me.
So
you can admittedly say that Derek Carr can be a top 9 to 12 quarterback in the NFL, and that's a very good quarterback. But this roster is not going to be good enough to support that 9 to 12 quarterback all the way to a Super Bowl for another 2 to 3 years. Let's just call it what it is. I mean, you were calling for Paul Gunther's head, but there's so many new players on that defense that aren't playing well. That's a fact. It's tough in Las Vegas right now. It's an interesting situation. The conversation is very good. New York Giants, I'm going to say this right now. I don't think they should. Give Daniel Jones a third year, especially with their draft position. I don't think they're going to be in a position to make. Do you think Mac Jones or Kyle Trask, say the first 4 quarterbacks are off the board by the time they're picking, do you think Mac Jones or Kyle Trask are an upgrade over Daniel Jones?
I don't know.
Yeah, no one knows. Obviously, no one knows. But do you think it's worth that risk?
Where are they going to be at in the draft? They're going to be in the middle. Yes, I think it is.
Really?
Yeah.
I think if that's the answer, then I do think you pull the trigger. If your front office is confident in Mac Jones or Kyle Trask, say one of them, can be an upgrade over Daniel Jones, you swing the bat. But if you're not, I think there's some reasons to not be, I think you stay put and try and build around him just that third year, add to the offensive line, add more receivers. Mm-hmm. They need more receiving talent and continue to build on defense and say what you want about Joe Judge. That defense is playing well.
One first round pick, and like the hit rate of one first round pick is like not great. Like it's not a sure thing for sure. Mm-hmm. And it's one player that honestly they've been drafting like nose tackles and
true. Well, you'd have to make some investments in free agency too. I mean, you have to bring in a Will Fuller. You'd have to you have to bring in one of the top receivers in free agency. You have to try and find ways to build up that offense.
Yeah.
But again, we keep bringing it up, the Brandon Bead method, where you just throw the kitchen sink at resources to support your own quarterback and see if it works. And it has. And in Josh Allen's third year, who played like ass in 2018 and 2019. Daniel Jones could be in a similar spot.
But that was developmental. Like he's actually actual physical development that the likes of which no one's ever seen before. Also,
true. I'm not saying everyone's going to make that big Josh Allen third-year leap, but Daniel Jones could at least marginally improve maybe with a better situation. I don't know. Call me crazy. They also have one of the better head coach, offensive coordinator tandems in the NFL. Like that is just such a good situation for any quarterback playing. And then you factor in that Josh Allen has all this natural ability. It's crazy to think about the value of coaching and the situation, and then you insert a guy that can do things athletically and with his arm that others can't.
That's the thing. It's like Daniel Jones is not that guy though. Is the other like
true.
He is. I just want to say he is who he is at this point in terms of what he brings to the table with an arm from an arm perspective. he kind of seems like a guy who is capped because he does the little things well. Like it's not that, it's the pure.
It's the high end he doesn't do well.
Exactly,
Will he ever do the high end well? That was not the problem with Josh Allen. He did the high end well dating back to Wyoming. When I was covering the game from Laramie, Wyoming, little San Diego State sports editor covering Josh Allen and against San Diego State, where he mopped us up. It was a fun one. But all right, let's get through these thinking about the future. Jump into offensive rookie, defensive rookie of the year conversation, and then review these games. We got to move quickly.
Okay, thinking about the future. This one's pretty self-explanatory. I feel like Atlanta Falcons. Matt Ryan's only 35. He feels older than that for some reason, but so like they don't necessarily have to, but his arm just, I don't know, like he never had an arm that really looks like he would age well, although Drew Brees didn't either, but he's pinpoint accurate. Matt Ryan, I'm not sure is that. They could address it. Lions, Stafford just doesn't look like the Stafford of old. Like I think it's only going downhill from this. And again, another guy who's not that old. I believe he's 32, or like maybe he's just, I think 32 at this point. But I think you can develop a guy behind him. Bucks, obviously, you got Brady for one more year. Saints, Colts, those are all self-explanatory. And then the Steelers as well, as much as Steelers fans hate to hear it. Big Ben's arm is not the same as it was a few years ago.
Dude,
like, actually legitimately is not with the injury he had.
He talked about retiring in his post-game press conference. And I know he does that every year. But if your quarterback is in that position, if you're not at least in the thinking about the future tier, the only disagreement I have here is I think the Steelers should be in the still could, probably should tier.
Ooh.
That's my take. I mean, looking at 2021, obviously they shouldn't make an upgrade this week. They have to play out this season. They're 11-2, losing 2 bad games with a bad offense. But next year, I think you still could, probably should try and make an upgrade at the position, especially if Ben Roethlisberger finishes out the season looking as he has. And if he's not playing well.
Last couple weeks, but it drops too. But yeah. Yeah, I'm with him.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and jump to our favorites for offensive rookie and defensive rookie of the year after this short break. Mike, the favorite for offensive rookie of the year right now, and this kind of surprised me, at minus 475, depending on the market you get it at, is Justin Herbert. And I know he's played really well. I mean, I think he's setting, single game passing yard rookie records. But how is it not Justin Jefferson the favorite? Right now, he's plus 333 to win offensive rookie of the year. I put a little cheddar down on Justin Jefferson plus 333. If he breaks Randy Moss's record, single season receiving yards record, which is at 13-13, and he has 3 games to beat it, and I think he can, I think he's a lock. Randy Moss won it that year. Justin Jefferson, I think, would win it this year. But do you think Justin Herbert should still be the favorite to win this award?
I think you just have to look at kind of the history of the award, though, and how they end up voting usually. They give pretty strong deference to any quarterback that shows any. Like last year, Kyler Murray won it. A.J. Brown goes for over 1,000 yards, has a ridiculous, rookie season. Josh Jacobs as well at the running back position. And then Kyler Murray wins it with like good, not great numbers at the quarterback position. Like they give deference. Dak Prescott beat out Zeke Elliott in their rookie seasons. And like from a value perspective, yeah, but like Zeke was one of, I think he was like top 3 in rushing yards that year, if not like led the league in rushing yards as a rookie. So they give strong deference to quarterbacks. But like you said, if Justin Jefferson breaks the rookie receiving record, they're going to give him rookie of the year. So those odds right now are a little skewed, in my opinion, are just a little off.
I think the defensive rookie of the year odds are spot on. Chase Young, minus 185, the clear favorite. Jeremy Chin, the Carolina Panthers safety, at plus 200, who has all of the box score stats and I think the narrative to win it as well. And then kind of a distant sleeper, the only other guy I'd really include in the conversation. I didn't even include another guy in the offensive rookie of the year conversation. It's going to be Jefferson or Herbert. But Antoine Winfield Jr. plus 600 to win defensive rookie of the year. If he turns it on of late, he needs a couple a pick six, a couple of fumble sixes, and the Buccaneers to win out. But I think he's a sleeper that I would include in the conversation. Right now, though, I put money on Chase Young, and at minus 185, you might as well not even do it.
Yeah, that one. Chin has a lot of tackles, but also is a 95 tackles on the year. But that still only ranks like 20 something among defense players.
He's got a shitload of forced fumbles, though.
Like if he was really high on the list and also has like a couple touchdowns, I think Young's name brand. Oh yeah, and just from whatever, and then this past week had the similar splash plays with the fumble recovery touchdown, those highlights to point to in big wins, and you just spilled all over yourself, you sloppy son of a bitch. I think it's Chase. I think this one is like this one should look more like the Herbert minus 475. Now, obviously, like if Chin has a couple pick sixes at the end of the year, like only a few plays can sway this one, but I think Young is really a heavy favorite right now, more so than the -185 number.
Yep. Interesting stuff. I just spilled coffee all over my leg. That's going to do it for the offensive rookie and defensive rookie of the year conversation isn't all that interesting when you're actually trying to find value in the market and who's going to win it. I think the more interesting conversation is the one we had with Tristan Wirfs and one we talked about. It's like there are other guys that maybe are playing better, but just don't have the narrative or the box score stats to win it. For defensive rookie of the year, I think the narratives and his play has lined up. He's the highest graded rookie defender in football. Yeah. But for offensive rookie of the year, if it was actually a fair man's race, I mean, Tristan Wirfs, Michael Onwenu, those two guys have played really, really well.
And like we said, Wirfs, next 3 games, he got Falcons twice and someone else who has no pass rush whatsoever. So they're
probably going to be the highest graded right tackle.
End up highest graded right tackle in the NFL.
All right, NFL games. Looking at some rookies to watch and see how they're playing, then also make some Greenline picks here. Go ahead and kick us off.
All right, I'm going to highlight some guys we really haven't talked about and guys who showed out this past weekend. I'm going to start with a guy. He didn't actually show up, but he got his first NFL career NFL start. It was our highest rated guard from last year's NFL draft. It was Netani Muti for the Denver Broncos. Now, he didn't do great, but he looked better than Lloyd Cushenberry has for a lot of the season. So he's going up against the Bills this week. I believe he's going to get another start. Let's go Netani.
Netani Muti, if you watched last week's game on Game Pass, watch the All-22, the end zone look, going against Derek Brown, I mean, that's just a big dude on a big dude. It was a fun matchup to watch.
It wasn't announced that he was going to start by the time we did the pod, but I wish it would have, because that would have been a fun one to break down.
It was fun. My first one's going to be Justin Herbert versus a very, very bad defensive coordinator gone Las Vegas Raiders defense. Raiders favored by 3.5 in this one. I think Justin Herbert might light it up. Like that 3.5 number, I don't know. I kind of want to touch it on plus 3.5 for the Los Angeles Chargers. I think Justin Herbert's going to have a day. I honestly do. That receiving core is underrated. Like Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Hunter Henry. I mean, he's making other guys look good as well. And I posted this on Twitter recently, but like every single week, Justin Herbert is making wow throws that other quarterbacks in this class, other quarterbacks in the NFL simply can't make. And I think against that Raiders defense, there's going to be a lot of open looks, and there's going to be a lot of situations where Justin Herbert can really show off. I think it's not my Greenline pick this week in the NFL, but I really am excited to watch him beat up on a bad Raiders defense and maybe cover that 3.5 number.
Yeah. And outside of the pick last week, and the numbers obviously didn't look great, I thought he was playing efficient football still, like only 5.5 yards per attempt, but I thought he was actually making good decisions there. I'm going to go with my next one, Lynn Bowden Jr., another guy we haven't really talked about, has gotten some shine the past couple weeks there in the slot for Miami Dolphins because the Raiders traded him in the preseason. Going up against the Patriots, I'm excited to see what he does against a lot of man coverage there.
I mean, they're doing a lot of crazy things with him. Handing him the football, throwing him, dump offs. He looks good in the open field. Looks good in the open field. My matchup is going to be Damian Lewis, who has had a really good season so far, but has had some down games of late, has gotten beaten up a bit by some opposing defensive lines, and he's got another tough matchup this week. Seattle Seahawks and Damian Lewis favored by 6 against the Washington football team. But let me mind you, over the past 5 weeks, leads the NFL in EPA per play allowed. I think they rank inside top 3 on the season, and that defensive line is menacing. Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Montez Sweat, Chase Young, and even on the back end, another rookie to watch in this game, Cameron Curl, who's playing really, really well of late. They have a really good defense. I think Damian Lewis is in for a treat against the Washington football team.
I think I wrote this article before the season that this Washington football team front seven, when everything comes together, is going to be scary. It's going to be like Eagles-esque from their championship run. It's going to be Broncos-esque from their championship run. It's going to be utterly dominant because they have the tools there. Reuben Foster's still not even healthy and on the field yet. When he comes back, if that ever happens, big asterisk there, they're going to be pretty scary.
I'd love to see them add a linebacker there because John Bostic, and they have that, I think that second-year player out of UNC that plays for them. Can't think of his name off the top of my head. Cole Holcomb, that's there. I think they can make an upgrade at that position and really take that front seven to the next level because the defensive line is hot. It's a lot of guys that are developing really well along that defensive line. My third, or go ahead.
My last one here. This guy we didn't get to talk about Monday's spot because he played Monday night. But Justin Matabuke from the Baltimore Ravens had one of the most impressive performances I've seen from a rookie all season. He had a 90.4 overall grade going up against Cleveland, and all of his wins came against Wyatt Teller or Joel Bitonio, 2 of the best guards in the NFL, the best guard tandem in the NFL. He was beating up to a tune of a 90.4 overall grade, had 4 pressures on 23 pass rushing snaps. if you think back to his time at Texas A&M, so 3rd-round pick, Justin Madubuike, Texas A&M, he was the guy who ran hot and cold. Like, he had games where you're like, holy shit, this guy should be, a first-round defensive tackle. And then you have games where it's like, where is he right now? And that's kind of what he's looked like as a rookie. But this game, it'll get me excited if I'm a Ravens fan.
Turn it on. Justin Madubuike, have yourself a day. Last matchup I have here is Justin Jefferson chasing the rookie receiving yards record.
The Jags this week, so I didn't even say that. But
what'd you say?
He's going up against the Jaguars this week, so that's hopefully if he doesn't beat them up, then I'd be a little worried. But that's not.
Yeah, that Jaguars interior offensive line is atrocious. Justin Jefferson versus the Jalen Johnson, another rookie in the Bears defense. I think the Vikings are favored by 3 in this one, like on the road against the Chicago Bears. But Justin Jefferson got the best of Jalen Johnson in their last matchup. I think you could see a similar feat this week. I know he's chasing that record. I know the Vikings, now with a really long shot to make the postseason, let's feed Justin Jefferson the football here. I think there's some rookies to watch in this one, both Jefferson and Jalen Johnson. Definitely a game I'm turning on. Can I start with my Greenline pick?
Yeah, do it.
My Greenline pick this week, and I like yours as well, and I probably put some money on that one, and I'll probably put some money on Justin Herbert. But I think the Greenline pick I'm going to proverbially write up here. Cowboys +3 at home versus San Francisco 49ers. Buy yourself a point. I think you see it at 2.5 some places. Buy yourself to that 3. Take some of the vig, take some of the juice, get to +3 at home. And you don't look really good against the Cincinnati Bengals. And that receiving core continues to look really good. I think against the Niners, who have really struggled to put up points. Raheem Mostert questionable. Deebo Samuel out. The tight end, George Kittle, still on the injured reserve. Fred Warner banged up. There's a lot of injuries on this team for the San Francisco 49ers. I think the Cowboys +3 is what I like.
I hate that.
You hate it? Why do you hate it?
I love the 49ers there. You're telling me Kyle Shanahan, that run game against the most undisciplined run defense in the NFL, is going to end well for the Cowboys.
Maybe that's a bad matchup that I'm
just saying. You go ahead and bet it, but I will be taking the other side of that one. My bet this week is Pittsburgh -13 against the Bengals. There aren't a lot of teams I wouldn't take -13 against the Bengals right now. That's just how the Bengals are. Mm-hmm. They're not good.
I mean, this is a slump buster week for the Pittsburgh Steelers to get back on track, figure it out.
Yeah, this is like you after that coffee date.
You need. I don't even know what
going
you're
to.
I haven't been a 13-point favorite in a date this year.
What?
I haven't been a 13-point favorite in a date this year. Okay, but this is a big bounce back opportunity for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Moving to the NCAA, instead of going game by game here and going back and forth, I wanted to pivot this segment to just highlight all the big games. There's a ton of big games this week. I think let's highlight all the big games and talk about some of the prospects in them. Starting with, I think this game's on Friday night. Oregon at USC. USC favored by 3 in this game. Turn it on to watch these players on USC. Like, there's a ton of draft prospects inside the top 100, top 150 on our draft board. Maybe not a ton, multiple at least for USC. Keaton Slovis is Anthony Treash's future #1 overall pick, a quarterback there at USC. You have the receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown, the guard playing tackle, Elijah Vera Tucker, Hufanga, the linebacker there. I mean, those are all guys that are playing well right now. I think it'll be exciting to watch this game.
Yeah, but they also sneak by every single goddamn week, it seems like. Like when you were saying the difference between them and Ohio State, like they deserve to be 13th. This is a football.
You just hate USC.
I do, yeah, but this is not a great football team.
I'm taking USC -3 in that one. If I had to make a pick, I'm taking USC -3 again against Oregon. Next game here, I think this is the MAC championship. MACtion's also being played on Friday night. Ball State at Jarrett Patterson, the running back in Buffalo. Buffalo favored by 13.5. I take Buffalo in this one too. I think they could blow the doors off Ball State. Jarrett Patterson isn't going to be in the conversation for Heisman or Maxwell Award, whatever, but has had a stellar season for Buffalo. Probably not like a high-end draft prospect by any means. Still kind of a small guy. Probably his game probably doesn't translate really, really well to the NFL to a point where he's a day 2 pick, but still a fun offense to watch in the MAC.
Yeah, they got a really good offensive line. Like that's why they're a 13.5-point favorite. They can roll on any MAC team.
That's another one where I'm taking the favorite -13.5. If I had to pick, Clemson at Notre Dame, baby.
Here's my Greenline pick of the week, even though Greenline has no edge on this. But Notre Dame, 10.5-point dogs. Are you kidding me? Did we all watch the last matchup? They just go up and down the field on this sorry Clemson defense.
Honestly, at 10.5, I think about Notre Dame as a pick.
Oh, actually, no, Greenline does have Notre Dame as value there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Greenline has value on Notre Dame at 10.5. But I have too long made fun of and roasted.
Say Clemson in a blowout. Say it.
Notre Dame team to not take Clemson. So I bought them down to -10, and I'm taking Clemson -10 this week. That's one of my 3 Greenline picks that I'm all picking and parlaying for the family.
You can't call that a Greenline pick. Greenline doesn't have a value on that.
Okay,
it's
not a Greenline pick, but it's my AG lock. It's my AG lock. I'm going against the numbers. I can't wait to sweat this game with you on Saturday. I'm going to wear my Clemson gear. I don't have any, but I'm going to buy some, and it's going to be an absolute
I hope
riot.
I'm not sweating.
But
I hope I'm...
regardless of the line, and regardless of the hatred I have for Notre Dame, I don't have hatred for Notre Dame. I just like betting against them. Because of you. Yeah. There's a lot of prospects in this one, too. I mean, it's a prospect city. You got, Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, Liam Eichenberg, Mike Jones, who's actually playing in this game. He didn't play in the last matchup. Trevor Lawrence in the same boat, didn't play in the last matchup. Travis Etienne, Xavier Thomas. There's a ton of talent on both sides of the ball in this one. Tommy Tremble, too, is a tight end in this class that I kind of like.
And then actually the kind of underrated side and the underrated prospects in this one are Notre Dame's defensive line and kind of how they dominated that first matchup. Dalen Hayes and Ade Ogundeji, legitimate late round guys at this point, but late rounders along the defensive line are still guys that can impact outcomes. And that's why I'm going Notre Dame in this one.
I like Clemson -10. All right, Iowa State versus Oklahoma. The sixth
best team in the country, a -5.5 point dog. That's absurd. That's how great they are, and they're at home too. So
Iowa State, a 5.5 point dog against Oklahoma. Game, right? You have 2 quarterbacks that are interesting: Brock Purdy, Spencer Rattler, and on defense, Nick Bonito and Ronnie Perkins for Oklahoma have played really well this year along the edge. This is a game to turn on, absolutely, just to watch.
Oh, it is a neutral site. My bad, sorry.
Neutral site, just to watch Iowa State I think, get embarrassed here. I don't want to bet on this game. I think Oklahoma has been so hot and cold that this could be an interesting one. But I do like the idea of the 6th best team in the country dropping one against Oklahoma here. Who ranks 15th? Somewhere in that range. Yeah. But Spencer Rattler gives them a chance every single week. It should be a fun game to watch.
Rattler is the real number 1 pick in 2022.
Spencer Rattler?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he has absurd arm talent. I mean, he's what everyone wants at the quarterback position right now. You'd like to see him be more consistent, but I still think he has enough to get people excited. Yeah. Northwestern at Ohio State. I saw it. I was on my betting. I was with my bookie, and I saw Ohio State line drop from -21 to -20.5, and I backed up the Brinks truck because I don't think Northwestern's coming close to this game. I think Ohio State knows that people are like, oh, you've only played 5 games. I can't believe it. They bent the rules for you to get in the Big Ten championship. They're going to blow the doors off Northwestern. They're going to absolutely blow the doors off Northwestern this week. -20.5 is not enough. I bet Ohio State -20.5. And this is, again, another prospect game to watch. There's a ton of talent on Ohio State every single week.
The amount of offensive talent in the Big Ten West is incredible. Like how little there is. Mm-hmm. Like there's just like no one's getting drafted. Like, none of the teams that like Northwestern played this year, Maryland, Iowa, Nebraska, Purdue, obviously I have Rondale Moore, but Wisconsin, Michigan State, Illinois, none of them have like an offense.
Could you take the best offensive players from all those teams and create a better offense than Ohio State?
No, you couldn't.
That's absurd.
Maybe a better offensive line, but then not the better playmakers for sure.
Insane. All right, 3 more games here, and then we'll get to my green line picks. We got Tulsa at Cincinnati. Cincinnati favored by 14. That's a big number in the American Conference Championship. I feel like that might be too big.
It might be too high because I don't trust Cincinnati's offense.
I agree, and
Tulsa's a very good defense.
I'm not saying they're going to lose a football game, Quinn. I know you're a UC grad. I'm not saying they're going to lose a football game. But -14 feels like a lot. In a championship game for an offense that has been streaky, that is a game that scares me. But you get to watch Zaven Collins, my guy out of Hominy, Oklahoma. And then you get to watch a Cincinnati Bearcats defense that I think had like 6 players named to the all-conference team or something. Yeah. James Wiggins, Derek Forrest, Ahmad Gardner, Myjai Sanders. They have so much talent on defense. This is going to be a fun game to watch.
They do need a statement, though. They need to cover that if they're going to hop from 8. They need an Ohio State loss. They need a Clemson loss to get in there, but they need those. If they get those 2 and they get a statement win, I could see it. You
know what they need to do to get ahead in the rankings? Lose to Louisiana early in the season. I heard that really helps your rankings a ton.
Well, they're trending upwards. Iowa State, obviously.
We
were like clowning them that day, like about how losing to Louisiana. Like everyone, they were the laughing stock of college.
They were. Brock Purdy looked like ass.
Brock Purdy looked like shit. Yeah, like you can't. Okay.
All right, one more game to touch on here. It's Alabama at Florida. It's not at Florida. I think I think that might be neutral site or in Alabama. Alabama favored by 17 in this one. Take the points. Yes, Alabama and the points. As good as Florida's offense has been, I think, and the total on this game is like 74 or something. Like this is going to be an absolute fireworks show.
Really
one of which that I feel like is very one-sided, and Alabama rolls, which leads me to my Greenline pick. By the way, turn on Alabama's tape and watch every single player on that team. Josh Joe, Patrick Surtain, Najee Harris, Devontae Smith. All these guys have a ton of talent. They're all the draft level, like NFL draft caliber talent on Alabama. And even on Florida's side, Kyle Pitts, Kyle Trask, some important pieces there. Kadarius Toney. This is a great game to watch between two really good football teams.
I think Alabama's, I don't want to say problem, but like the reason I don't love 17 there, they don't have much of a pass rush compared to Alabama teams of old. It's probably one of the worst pass rushes, probably like since we started grading PFF. So that's worrisome to me when you got a quarterback like Kyle Trask. If you can't affect him, like I said, I think points will be scored. And 17 just seems like a big number when you got two teams maybe scoring in the 30s and 40s in this one.
All right, here are my Greenline picks. Your Greenline pick is Notre Dame plus 10.5. Here are mine, all parlayed. Ohio State minus 20.5. Bang. Alabama minus 17. Bang. Clemson bought down to minus 10.
You're the mark. You're the guy who never thinks an upset could happen.
Never.
Chiefs minus 13 against the Raiders.
Dude,
wow.
these are all picks that I really like this week, and I'm on a heater.
Yeah, I was gonna say you're hot though. I can't.
I'm a heater. So when you get on a heater, what do? You don't continue to play conservative. You double. It's a heat check. This is a heat check. Yeah. This is an NBA caliber heat check by me.
You're
parlaying three heavy
from
favorites
the logo right now.
From the logo.
Yeah.
From the logo. Damian Lillard from the logo. Oakland native. Parlaying three heavy favorites. And I can't wait to cash in, because when I do, you're going to be the first guy to grab a beer, because you're going to need one when Clemson wins by more than 10 against Notre Dame.
Still haven't gotten my case of beer from Tresh. If he's listening right now, he's probably not, but if he's listening and wants to make that a double or nothing with Clemson this weekend, we can get on board with that.
Sounds fire. All right, that's going to do it for the Wednesday episode of 2-for-1 Drafts. Make sure you rate, review, subscribe, download, send to your friends, drop it in a postcard. I don't know what you can do to podcasts these days. Things are changing, times are changing, but do everything you can. You can't drop it in a postcard?
Nope.
Interesting stuff. But share it, all that stuff. Make sure you listen and subscribe to 2-for-1 Drafts. We're going to be moving to 3 episodes a week here soon. Getting into the Senior Bowl, getting into the Combine, draft prospects, actually watching full games of these guys, watching all the way through all their tape, going back to 2019, looking at specific matchups.
So I got that email about Senior Bowl credentials. I was just like Pavlov's dog. My mouth started watering.
Oh, man. I'm so excited. Even if we don't make the trip to Mobile this year because of COVID, I'm still excited. I'm still so excited for Senior Bowl season, overreaction season, pro days, combine. All that stuff is so fun. I cannot wait. Make sure you're listening to 2-for-1 Drafts when it comes to January, February pre-draft season. Until next time, Austin Gayle, Mike Renner, 2-for-1 Drafts.
You want to get rid of me and get back to more great PFF YouTube content? All you have to do is push that button right there and subscribe. Thanks for watching.